Hello everyone, I wanted to talk about Scavengers, which is a free-to-play battle royale. I'm not sure if it will survive as a game, and I will try my best to explain that. Okay, so let's start with what is Scavengers exactly, other than that it's a BR. Well, that's a little hard to explain because it's a mix of PvE and PvP. So you do fight NPCs as well as players all in the same match. How that works is there will be certain points on the map that you have to um, attack, if you will, such as a scrap place, a place that has medical equipment on hand that you can take, and data or things like that. Those are all things that you attack and acquire when going at these points. You take those from NPCs. However, players do fall into the mix because they can prevent you from taking those things, or they can just thirst you later on, like when you're in transit or something. Like some of the other BRs, like Apex and the others, they do have specific characters that have specific skills and things. To further complicate matters, they do also have a research system. The research system is where you will research equipment and talents or other things to equip when you go into the game. I think that's really the best explanation I can give about Scavengers. Now let me talk about why I'm putting this as a question. Obviously, it's early access right now, but this early access is having a lot more issues than other early accesses that I've seen in recent times. I have noticed that more than one player is having issues connecting to the game. It will reach the little screen where it says connecting to mother and then just stay on that screen. I've experienced this myself a couple of times and haven't been able to play the game when that issue occurs. What's more curious is the support's response. The support for this game suggests to make sure that your clock is set right on Windows. That's a first because that should be automatically set for all systems. I don't think that anyone would have manual clock on, but if they do, that would be really weird. Either way, if that's the cause of an issue, that your the Windows clock, they need to stop whatever they're doing that requires that. They should just switch to Grandmaster time or something. That I don't understand why that is an issue. So yes, that's part of the connecting issues. Some other things that were suggested by support is to use a VPN. Okay, that's a problem because while VPNs for some aren't hard to set up, for others it is hard to set up. That's more technical now than the clock thing, because the clock thing is pretty easy to figure out, but VPN, that's going to take a little bit more. So yeah, VPN's recommended. Oh, and then it was recommended to use the run as administrator for a Steam game. Well, assuming you're running on Steam, most people aren't going to remember how to do that. Even I didn't remember how to do it because all Steam games that I've clicked play for work. I haven't had to do a run as administrator in a long time. It took me forever to figure out that I would have to right-click properties, go to local files, and then right-click and run as administrator. I mean, it's easy enough to do. It's just something that you'd have to Google to try and remember, just like I did. So, I can keep going down the whole technical issues, but the first two I mentioned are really weird. The clock and the VPN. I don't understand why those are technical issues. The other thing that has my attention is the current balance of the game. The balance of the game is really wonky because there are two explorers in particular that I think are a very big problem in the game that do upset the balance. That's going to be Jay and Cruz. You'll notice Jay on the website picture wielding the axe-looking weapon, and then Cruz is the one with the helmet on. I'll explain both problems individually, starting with Jay. Jay's an issue because of his ability called Overshield. That means that whenever Jay wants to, Jay replenishes shields and he gets the next higher tier shield. So if he's on purple shields, that would refill instantly and go straight to gold. So that by itself would not normally be an issue, but it's the kit that is. Jay has talents for a debuff on the melee weapon and also increased movement speed with the melee weapon, which means that Jay has the ability to completely tank you, get in your face, and do whatever he wants to. There's very little that one person can do against a Jay if they're not a Jay. The only way to counter Jay other than that is using Letty. Letty is the one on the website picture with the revolver. Letty has an ability that basically is like a Fusroda. It disables the ability and pushes them back. That's really the only counter to Jay, because otherwise everybody else just struggles with Jay. At least solo. Now, if you have a teammate there, then that works to a certain degree, but there's still no guarantee that you'll take down Jay. Now, people might be saying, well, shouldn't you have a teammate always? No. As a matter of fact, what you're supposed to do early on in Scavengers is split, because the more you can split, the more points you can reach, and thus get more resources in the process. So unfortunately, Jay takes advantage of single players. And because that's a big part of the game, at least early on, then yeah, that's a problem. And even when it's team fights, it's still a problem because of just how much Jay can do. Okay, moving on to Cruz. Now, Cruz is an issue in itself because of his ability called Tailwind. Tailwind basically gives Cruz super speed and creates a zone of super speed behind him, meaning that not only can he move super fast, but his teammates can as well. The issue here is that Cruz has an SMG, which is the fastest firing gun in the game as far as I can tell, does a considerable amount of damage for that RPM, and on top of that, you can't outrun him. His cooldown is just so low that he can literally use it for thirsting people. That's all there is to it. All Cruz players are going to thirst. That's just the general way things go. There's no avoiding it because of just how fast he is. He's faster than any player or any other character in the game. So yeah, that's an issue in itself. But then you add in the fact that his teammates can do it too. So it turns out to be a thirst fest with Cruz. Now, I can understand this if Cruz had a longer cooldown. That would certainly help with the balance. But I doubt that's going to happen. Let me now explain the community side of things to show you why I'm saying this about Cruz. As it stands, Scavengers does have a Discord server where you can provide feedback. But the problem is with the feedback is it's a Google form. It posts directly to the Discord, and it does not allow for comments. That means you can't have a discussion. All you can get is a up thumb or down thumb, which doesn't really help. If you get a lot of down thumbs, you won't get an explanation as to why it is. All you can do is just look at the history of the feedback, whatever it pertains to. I have noticed by looking through the history of the feedback that generally speaking, players who are a main of one of the characters will down thumb a feedback if that feedback is asking for a change on that character. That's not really fair. but it is what it is. I've said this before about other games, but feedback should never be exclusively to a player thing. Your average player base, I'm not saying everybody, but your average player base is not going to have the flexibility or the mindset to understand why certain things work or don't work. They only care about what they want. That's it. It is better if you have actual game testers. Game testers are under the mindset of being neutral because that's what they got paid to do, was be very neutral. They tested a game, looked for bugs, glitches, crashes, things like that, and also put their feedback in. Unfortunately, game testers is no longer a thing in the job market because once the studios and all the other things decided to just go full corporation, they've completely removed that. Nowadays, most game companies will have the Q&A or the devs double as testers, which in my opinion is not a great way of handling it because now you're splitting a person into two different tasks. Game testers were devoted to one thing and one thing only, playing the game. They checked for everything and then they left the repair work to the devs. It was a great way to handle things, but unfortunately that's just no longer the way it is. So now it's just the devs and Q&A. The last time I've heard of a game studio using game testers was Phantom Doctrine, which was about 2016. They used a full-on testing team alongside their dev team, and the results show. Phantom Doctrine was stable day one. I did not have any crashes. I had a few bugs, but they weren't game-breaking bugs. I was able to play the game without a worry in the world, and that is awesome to see. But unfortunately, most games haven't learned from this, Scavengers being one. And I think that they could improve if they had a game testing team of some sort. My suggestion for really any game, and I'll kind of deviate a little bit now, is to have a community test team. I think Division 2 did it with, what was it, a Mega Squadron or something like that. I know a couple of the tabletop board games, they do have their own game testing community. So yeah, there are certainly examples of it, and I think that there's certainly room for the professional game tester to come back. It just needs to be handled differently. Personally, me, I wouldn't mind, doing it for just a game key. If you want to give me a game key, I'll test your game. That's a drop in the bucket for most dev teams, studios. For most studios, that's a drop in the bucket, giving one person a game key. You're talking about spending a couple million on a game, so what's another $60 to drop on one person to help you with your game? That could inevitably or possibly increase the amount of money you make. Little quick fact here. The average cost to make a AAA game as of 2020, and I haven't seen statistics for 2021 yet, is between $60 and $80 million. Some of the more expensive ones include Star Citizen, GTA 5, and some others. GTA 5 took $285 million to develop and launch. Okay? That is the figures you're looking at. So yeah, $60-80 million to develop and launch it. But yeah, it took $285 million for that. Yeah, that's the numbers you're looking at. So I don't know. Well, anyways, back to the subject matter though. So as you can see, there's certainly a lot of technical and balance issues that they need to correct. Is it a fun game? Yes, but with the current balance and technical issues, I'm not sure if it will survive. And then top in the fact that the Division Heartland was announced. Division Heartland is supposed to be a Division-based free-to-play battle royale. Division has a huge player base, well, in comparison to this, behind it. So it will certainly have, something to transfer over when that's done. Whereas Scavengers is starting from the ground up. So, yeah, I don't know, but we'll see where it goes, but I'm just going to leave it as a question. And you can see why I'm leaving it as a question, because there's so many things wrong with it, and while it certainly has potential, can it achieve that potential? What do you all think? Let me know. Thanks for listening.